As Sarah said, hello, meditation friends. My name is Andrew. I am a certified level 2 mindfulness coach in the Unified Mindfulness System. You can find out more about at unifiedmindfulness.com. I'm a lot of things, but what I'm not is a licensed therapist, mental health professional, social worker, etc. So I'm a nerd and many different ways and lover of meditation, or I've grown to love meditation over the last 10 plus years. So this is a time for us to ultimately end up doing nothing. But what I've been playing with of late are what I'm looking at is almost kind of a cross-training approach, or I don't play music, but you might think of it like playing scales, or in music, perhaps. So we're in essence drilling a technique that is around noting, a noting practice. If you're new and you haven't come on before, noting is a way for us to look at having a momentary, complete focus on a particular sensory experience. And this ultimately comes from a branch of old school Buddhism, mostly in the Burmese school, but that's an outgrowth of the Theravada, which means elders, but it's old school Buddhism in that regard. And this noting is a way for us to sort of have our complete attention in on a particular sensation, and then soaking that attention in, and then optionally using a bit of skillful thinking that we call labeling. And so we can apply a label to that. And that is, or at least my way of, I'm trying on to explain that. It's like someone spotting you while you're doing an exercise. The label sort of spots or allows you to remain in contact with that sensory experience for a bit longer, and then you can kind of release and allow your attention to go wherever it is. These techniques, we can say, are characterized by two things. It's what we're focusing on, or the range of sensory experience we're choosing to focus on, and then how we're focusing on it. But ultimately, this is just sort of one expression of meditation, and meditation is a very large sort of expanse. So I'm not trying to say this is the only way to do it. In essence, we can think of all meditations are trying to cultivate a relaxed alertness, which seems almost contradictory, but that's in essence part of what's there. And then we can think of also, to borrow from Chad Ming Tan, who's the author of Search Inside Yourself, that we're familiarizing the mind with particular states. And so that's another sort of outgrowth of this. So what we'll do is a bit of something, and we'll contrast it with nothing. So the technique of no technique. So the something part will be the noting part, which may be new to folks. And then the nothing part, if you know about me as a result of me being connected to a moderator and a guest host on Do Nothing, then you know that part. So today we're going to use the system. The way the system offers a way to meet sensory experience is to have three categories for meeting that sensory experience and being able to focus on it. And that the three categories are see, hear, and feel. What I'm working with, or what I'm offering as a technique for this, is from the hear category. And hear can be referring to inner and outer, which means that we can hear would be auditory, so sounds around you, external sounds, and then also mental talk. So mental chatter, mental talk can be included in that as well. So there's a way for us to look at that technique that would involve all three categories being within our range of focus. That's the sort of flagship or hallmark technique of the system. What I'm playing with, at least in our afternoon idle sits, is sort of narrowing our focus to just one of those categories. So what we'll look at today is just hear. And what that little shorthand is indicating is we can focus on hear out, so on auditory sounds, or hear in, mental talk. And so that's our focus range. And our label for both is here. You could play with here in for mental talk and here out for auditory if that is a helpful modification for you. Totally fine, no big deal. But sometimes it's nice to just use one short label. And there's no one scoring at home. So, if it's a here in or a here out, doesn't really matter. What we're ultimately looking for is to familiarize the mind with what it's like to be in this focused state, being both relaxed and alert and in touch with what we're focusing on. So that was a lot of blabbing on my part. We'll sit for roughly 15 minutes. We'll do a little bit of settling in, and then we'll do the something part, and then we'll move to the nothing part, the do nothing part. And then if you have any questions, I will do my best to respond. If you have any reports or things you want to share, we can share and briefly talk about that afterwards. Okay, so to begin, and just invite you to adopt a posture that is upright and dignified. A posture that would allow you to be, as we mentioned, in the state of being both relaxed and alert. Ideally, that's with the spine tall, not efforting, shoulders over the hips, nose aligned with the navel. And then just sort of seeing how the body is today, or what's it like to be in this body today. And that could mean tension around the shoulders or perhaps in the jaw, maybe constriction or contraction around the belly. So on one hand, just in some cases, noticing the tension is enough to get it to release. And in others, it's, in essence, being aware that it's there and it will remain. So either one is totally acceptable. It's just a little more difficult when the tension wants to stay. And then part of the settling in is just a brief focus on our breathing. Again, leveraging the wisdom of the Beastie Boys, breathing slow in through the nose and low into the bottom of the lungs. That tempo is an ideal tempo for us to begin to bring online the parts of the nervous system that will allow us to be more relaxed. Waypoint, just that settling in and the bareness of that simple practice is an approach that you can use. Just that, not adding anything else to it. You're welcome to stay in that. For the first part, I invite you to shift to our just here practice. Allowing the sounds that are around us, as we notice them, briefly soaking our attention in and optionally labeling here. Allowing and being okay with mental chatter. So depending on how your afternoon or your morning is going, or your evening, wherever you may be at this point in space-time continuum, you may have more activation in that mental talk. And we notice that. So in and label here. And if we can remain in the sort of frame of the noting, we may not get carried into talk. But if we do get carried into the talk, or that the talk becomes so attractive or enticing that we lose our noting practice, we lose contact, that's okay. A sort of nod, and that happens, no big deal. And then coming back to our focus range, to just here. And I invite you to explore that now. So when we bring in to our focus range something like mental talk, that can be something that we can get pulled away very easily by. So if you find that, you can sort of modify and shift back to just focusing on here out. That's okay too. But if you can get a bit of curiosity about the enticing sort of quality of the mental talk and remain in that observer here in noting kind of category, begin to see a bit of the way that that arises and then ultimately passes away. Your choice. Just here. Good. So where we're heading next, you don't need noting. Leave that behind. And we'll let go of the technique altogether. We'll allow the attention to move where it wants, free range, plenty of pasture, plenty of space. Do nothing. So if you're used to doing a particular technique, you may find that when you let go, there's a desire to spontaneously pick up that technique and do that technique again. So if you do a lot of breath focus, you may find that you're focusing on your breath. Or if you do body scans, you may find that as you begin to do nothing and let go of the technique, another one of these practices that you're used to doing will kind of come online. And to work with that, you can see about letting it go. And if it picks up again after you let go, that's a bit of what the attention wants to be doing. When you let go one or two or three times, you're not intentionally trying to do that. Or it's one way to see you're not intentionally trying to do it. So we can offer a bit of equanimity in allowing the technique to kind of be online on autopilot. So I invite you to begin to reconnect to your surroundings. If your eyes have been closed, I invite you to open them. And thank you so much for spending that time with me, and thank you for your practice. Hello, Selvin. Thank you for joining again. And hello to Sarah and probably Susan and anyone else that is still on. Thank you so much for taking part of this little experiment. It is a delight for me to be able to kind of step away before I kind of transition to the latter half of my workday. So I really appreciate you joining me on that. If you do have questions, I can offer responses. I don't know that there'll be answers, but I'll allow you to figure or to decide if it's an answer or not. So yeah, sorry to hear about the headache going in there, Selvin. So I'm glad you feel better. So yeah, and aside too, I don't know the best way to get it to you, but there's a number of folks that have taken a class with Jeff Warren through how to guide meditation. So from learning the practice of guiding, not necessarily being a teacher or coach in that frame, but how to guide meditation. So a lot of folks, they have other practices. They're maybe yoga teachers or other aspects, and they were looking at guiding. The practice of being a guide. And so those folks are putting on a half day meditation retreat this Sunday. So if you contact me on Instagram, I'm Leonards, Lenards on Instagram. I can get you that info. And I will be in a supportive role in my common role of being a tech person. So just as an aside to let folks know, it's really cool to be part of. I was I don't know if teaching assistant is the right term, but I took part in the course to help assist Jeff and be a support to the folks. So it was a very rewarding experience. So it's cool to see that group organically put together to put together that thing for this Sunday. So reach out if that's something of interest, and we'll be back here tomorrow. And then if there are any requests, you can always drop those in the comments. So if there's a particular style of something that you would like to contrast with nothing, then you can always mention that in the below. And then if this has whetted your appetite in learning more about the Unified Mindfulness System, there's a free course on the core techniques that support what I'm sort of hinting at or I'm trying to cover in a way to get you to be able to experience and implement that technique. But there's sort of more expansive coverage of that. And that's the core techniques that's available on Unified Mindfulness. It's free, or at least you need to sign up, and then you get access to it. So have a great day, and if I don't see you on Friday, we'll be back next week, same times, 1 p.m. Eastern, 11 Mountain, I believe 9 a.m. Alaska time. So thanks.